Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Majors and Quinn YouTube channel. My name is Annie. I'm the events coordinator at Majors and Quinn, which is an independent bookstore in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you are having your first virtual event experience with Majors and Quinn, welcome. Thank you for being here. If it's not your first, thank you for coming back. And we are so excited to be doing our third book launch with author Abby Jimenez for her book Life's Too Short, second virtual one, unfortunately. And we're super excited to also have in conversation with her Casey McQuiston, who, as you probably know, is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue and the upcoming One Last Stop. So for those of you who are watching, many of you already are pre-ordered the book, already received it in the mail. Just know that if you are one of those pre-order customers, the majority of the books have shipped. If you don't have yours yet, it is likely on its way to you. But of course, if you have any questions, please reach out to us at Majors and Quinn. You can email orders@majorsandquinn.com. That's the people who've been communicating with you about order status, or events@majorsandquinn.com. That will come to me and we'll figure it all out if you have any questions. As you know, Abby personalized so many books. So if you have any questions about that or need something fixed, just please let us know. And if you are here from the free registration, thanks for joining. You may have pre-ordered from somewhere else, but if you do want a signed copy of Life's Too Short, or you want another one, we have those at Majors and Quinn. I will drop a link to that in the chat, so you can check that out if you like. We're gonna be just listening in on Abby and Casey's conversation. It's gonna be super fun. They're gonna talk about the book, and then we will take audience questions towards the end of the hour. So you can ask those in the chat. Many of you are already in the chat. Thanks for being there. Let us know where you're watching from. Say hello. And if you have a question though, write that at any point. I will be getting to as many as I can in the last few minutes of the event. So thank you in advance for your great questions. So please allow me to introduce our wonderful authors tonight. We are so happy to have with us Casey McQuiston, New York Times bestselling author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, and the forthcoming One Last Stop. She is also a pie enthusiast. She writes books about smart people with bad manners falling in love. Born and raised in southern Louisiana, she now lives in New York City with her poodle Mix and personal assistant, Pepper. And Abby Jimenez is a Food Network winner and USA Today best-selling author. She founded Nadia Cakes out of her home kitchen back in 2007. Bakery has since gone on to win numerous Food Network competitions and has amassed an international cult following. Abby's wry literary wit was spotlighted as the admin behind the hilarious viral comments on the now famous Nadia Cakes Geode cake. Abby loves good romance, coffee, doglets, and not leaving the house, which is good for you, I guess. Thank you both for being here. I will be back in a few minutes to take questions, but until then, have fun.
Thank you so much. Okay, first of all, I have to ask, is that a new addition to your bio, or was that pre-COVID?
No, that's always been there because that's always been true. I still don't like leaving the house, even though I'm getting a little stir crazy, but like I want to be able to go places, but I don't actually want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the freedom of choice that I think we're missing. Yeah. Well, I am so excited to be here tonight. I would love to give everybody here a little bit of backstory on this event because I feel like I have been waiting for a year to do this event. But yeah, everybody, if you don't know, Abby and I actually met in late 2019 when we were both on a panel together at Baton Rouge Book Fest, which is in my hometown. And it was sort of a comedy of errors in which we ended up wandering through the state capitol, me and Abby's husband, just trying to find our way to the signing table and asking 12-year-old volunteers for chairs. And you know what? It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And Abby asked me to do the launch of Happy Ever After playlists last year, and I was going to go to Minneapolis, and I was very excited to meet all of you guys there. Obviously, that didn't happen, but you know what? Now we understand how to do virtual events and we get to make up for it. So thank you so much for asking me again to do this.
Yeah, I was so nervous last year because that was like my first ever Zoom thing. And I was like, I couldn't even comprehend how it would work, and now it's like, oh, we do these all the time. It's not a big deal. But it just like, I ended up doing it with Erin Campbell, and she like came to my house, and I think I felt like safer, like having someone there in front of me, because I didn't trust like the video thing would work, which is kind of crazy. But now we're like, oh, this is old hat. We do this all the time. I have my setup. I've got like all my lighting, and I feel like it's good that we learned how to do this though, because we can reach so many more readers.
Yeah.
Where before like, people had to come see you.
Yeah. I really have been like thinking about that a lot lately as we start to get vaccinated. I really hope that this is a trend that we keep up, even like if it's just like half of the tour is virtual or something, because it's just such a cool accessibility thing for people, for so many people who for whatever reason may not have been able to come to events before. And like international readers can attend. It's really cool. So I'm glad that we are now to the point where we know how to do this.
Yeah.
But okay, as I said, but when we were doing our tech check, I do think we should do a very quick dog intro, give the people what they want just right off the bat, So would you please introduce us to Stuntman Mike?
Yeah, so I wasn't going to have Stuntman here because he's, I don't know, sometimes he jumps up and barks like a crazy person. But Casey was like, we should have our dogs. And I was like, you're right. So here's Stuntman. He's on my
Look at that little tongue. Oh my God, I love him so much.
I know, he's getting so grown out. He looks like he's taken up drinking or something. He's getting groomed next week, but
oh my God, look at him.
Like a little potato chip. It's all dry.
Oh, and he's giving a yawn to the people. Wow, he's a paid actor. I mean, it's in his name. He's a stuntman. I love it.
Put me down, Mom.
Pepper, come here. Say hi, Pepper. I don't know if she's gonna come. Oh, there she is. Hi, come here. Oh, every day she wants my attention all day, and then when I want her to come be on camera, she's like, look at her. This is Pepper. She's a hot mess, but she's very cute.
Say hi to Pepper, Stuntman.
Yeah. So, as two authors who love our dogs very deeply, and I think at this point have both written our dogs into our books because
Pepper into a book.
So Pepper is in One Last Stop, but with some details changed.
Okay.
Pepper is I've changed. I've kept Pepper in spirit, but her name is now Noodles, and she is now a boy. So,
I see.
But anyway,
it's so easy to write a dog that you know. You know what I mean?
It is,
especially when they have personality.
Yes, I mean, also I think that one thing. I mean, I feel like you have so many really amazing hallmarks of your books that I love so much, which we will get into, but one of them is that you always have such good and memorable dogs in your books.
I know. I can't wait for everyone to meet Harry Puppins, the rescue geriatric chihuahua in Life's Too Short. For those of you that haven't read it, well, most of you probably haven't read it yet, but yes, I love writing unique dogs in all my books.
Yes, so good. All right, well, let's just go ahead and dive into this conversation because I'm really, really excited to talk about Life's Too Short. I mean, it's so hard to say. I feel like I have like no object permanence. So when I get to the next book in a series of books that an author's written, I'm like, this one's my new favorite. So maybe I just need some more time to let it marinate to decide for sure if it is. But I do feel like there's just like so much going on in this book that I love so much, and I think it's so special. And it's just, I don't know. You're 3 for 3. What can I say?
And I hear that you are 2 for 2 because One Last Stop is getting amazing reviews. We were talking about this during the tech check, but I'm like, why can nobody get me a copy of Casey's book? I've been asking, can I get a copy of Casey's book, please? So Casey's going to get me a copy.
I will get you a copy. You know what? You got to go straight to the source sometimes.
I know. I'm like, why don't I just text you? I have your
You literally could text me. Okay. Anyway, but so I just, let's see. I really just want to start with the fact that, as a genre in romance, one of my favorite things is just this fun thing that we do of each book kind of building off the last and kind of spinning that extended cast out into more. So when you were sitting down to decide on who this book would be centered on, did you know from jump that Adrian was going to come into play, or was that a decision that you made based on what kind of story you wanted to tell?
You know, this is kind of an interesting question, because I actually wrote a third book that I trunked. Mm-hmm. And in that book, Adrian was in that book. So I knew that Adrian was going to be in, I mean, technically, the book that we just published, Life's Too Short, was going to be my fourth book, but I trunked the third one. And so this one got bumped forward. Mm-hmm. So that's where Adrian came from. He was a side character in a book that I ended up not publishing, but I did use a lot of elements of that book in my next book, Part of Your World. So it's not like it was like a total waste. It's like, there's still going to be some of the great things that I loved about that one. So there's that. But I actually put him in the Happy Ever After playlist. I gave him that little cameo with Sloan at the end of the Happy Ever After playlist to introduce him. So when we got to Life's Too Short, we would know who he was. Mm-hmm. And it was such a great, I love that little cameo with Sloan. And that does come up in Life's Too Short. He brings up how he went on a date with Sloan. And little Easter egg for Part of Your World. But you guys know that I love Easter eggs and I love little inside jokes. And in Part of Your World, which is my fourth book coming out next year, the main character mentions that she went on a date with Adrian Copeland. So he has dated 3 of the 4 heroines in my books. And it's like an inside joke. So yeah, Adrian, he's in book 2. He's in the Happy Ever After playlist. He's mentioned in Part of Your World. And then, of course, he's the main character in Life's Too Short. And I just love him. I'm hearing a lot of people are saying that he's rivaling. He's like, it's right up there with, I guess, him and Josh as the 2 favorite heroes of my novels. But he's very likable. He's like a total cinnamon roll.
Yeah, I mean, he's so good, and you know, you can tell that you've created a lovable hero when he finds his way to multiples of your heroines, and you're still like, you know what, I'm still rooting for this guy. He's gonna work it out. He's gonna find his girl eventually, and he does. But I also would love to talk about. I think that's something that it's kind of your brand, and it's something that you do so well. And something that is very, very present in this book is your ability to balance, you know, really like real emotional stuff that comes with life, like really honest stuff that we all have in our lives with romance. And romance is escapism, but I think the best romance is also really rooted in reality. So can you talk a bit about how these themes of grief and all of these sort of heavier issues come into play when you're coming up with your stories, and what you think they bring to a love story?
You know, I think that love is what happens around the other stuff that's happening in your life. You know, everybody's got stuff going on. And for me, when I deal with something hard, whether it's like losing a loved one or, I mean, anything, health issues, I tend to look at things through a funny or sarcastic lens. So it's very easy for me to write that into my characters, because that's how they also experience the world. It's how the book is serious and addresses real topics, but also has that lightness to it. It's kind of like if you can't laugh, you know, if you can't laugh, it's just going to make you cry. So just laugh, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like that's how a lot of people cope, you know, when bad things happen, is to just laugh it off, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I write into my characters and my stories. And this is a heavy book. You know, it's kind of funny because when I was telling everyone about it, you know, before it came out, I was like, this book is so funny. I think it's like my funniest book of all. And then when I finally got the audiobook to listen to like a few months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really serious. Like it's like there are such heavy topics in this book. And it kind of took me that like moment to hear it almost like in a different way, you know, like when I hear my book as an audiobook, it feels like I'm experiencing the book for the first time. Like I didn't write it. That's how it feels. And when I listened to it, I was like, wow, there's like some really freaking heavy topics in this. I think it's probably one of my heaviest books. And that's kind of crazy when you think about what went down in the friend zone. But the good thing with romance is we have to make you whole. We have a responsibility to give you a happy ever after at the end. So
I heard you almost say the title. Oh my God. Yeah, I love that, and I think it's so real. I think it's exactly what you were saying. Is I think you have to have the emotional lows to also have those emotional highs, and it's what life is. And in this book specifically, I think one of the biggest core kind of, I don't want to call it an issue, but just like an element that you're dealing with the book is the main character, well, one of the leads, the heroine's family history of ALS, and how that sort of kind of played into the way that she looks at the world and the way that she experiences the world. So what kind of drew you to writing about ALS, and what, I'm sure you did a lot of research. So do you want to tell us a bit about some of the research that you did for this book?
For the ALS research, I just did a ton of reading, basically. We're all familiar with, what ALS is from the Ice Bucket Challenge. I think that raised a lot of awareness. But I really wanted to explore what a romance would look like if you knew that one of the characters wasn't going to make it. Like what if one of the characters had a terminal disease? What does that look like? And ALS is final. There is no hope. If you get ALS, the average life expectancy is 3 years. So, what if you have this character who has this gene that runs in her family? She has an inability to test for the gene because they haven't mapped it yet, which is very true, that they haven't mapped all the genes that carry ALS. So she can't even do predictive testing for it. What does that look like? And how does that shape her as a character? How does she live her life, with that uncertainty all the time? The book touches on a lot of generational trauma, how this gets handed down from parent to child, and, child to, parent to parent again. Touches on grief and loss and how that affects people and coping mechanisms. And, this disease has really like ravaged her family and torn through it. And, the book is, like I said, it's a lot about coping mechanisms, both Vanessa's with the ALS side of her life, and Adrian's with, some of the things that have happened to him in his childhood. And I just love seeing characters deal with tough issues, because it's all fun and games when, like, you're in love with somebody and things are going well. But when it gets hard is, when you start to have kids and, people get sick, or maybe you have money issues, or somebody loses a job. That's when you really see the compatibility between two people, is when they have to like truly work to make things right, or to keep that relationship together. So I love throwing my characters into these really difficult scenarios to see how they handle it, to see how they forge through. Because I think for me, it's a greater sign of their love if they can get through those things than surfacey issues, And I really throw it at Adrian, man. Like,
yeah, Adrian has a bit of a time.
Yeah.
But I think that's also like, I don't think that a good romance hero has to have a tragic backstory.
No.
But I think that it's more about, how they interact with their own past and how it shapes them. And for some reason, a man who can process his trauma is like really works for a lot of women. I can't imagine why that would be. But yeah, I also, just speaking of family, I know I don't want to tease you because I know you haven't read One Last Stop yet, but I really, really was interested in Vanessa's dad and his grief, and like that sort of like the hoarder stuff that's going on, because August, the main character of One Last Stop, also has like a grieving hoarder mom. And that childhood really, really affected her, and where I think it kind of drove Vanessa to be really like bold and like, out there. It drove August to be like very guarded and weird. But I think that's what is really, really cool about what you're doing with building these backstories in this book is establishing these fully realized people. They have families, they have messed up childhoods. What do you think is the value of of adding that much family detail into a romance that ostensibly is just about a love story?
You know, I think it makes the book feel real and authentic if you create depth within the people that are surrounding these characters, you know? And I don't think anybody in this world is black and white, you know? To see she's got some challenging relatives. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not just her dad. You know, she's got issues with her brother. She's got issues with her sister. And just like Lola Simone in the Happy Ever After playlist, I humanize all these people you know, because that's real life. You know, people have depth. People have different angles to them. There is no one flat way to look at anyone. And I like unearthing those nuances, and I like showing how people ended up how they are, because I think how her family is affects how she's become. So, you know, I liked giving Gerald that bit of backstory and having us exit the book fully understanding her whole family dynamic. And I love the whole found family theme too, because that's really, you know, what happened with Adrian. That's her found family. And I understand at One Last Stop, it's a very strong found family theme. And I just love that.
Yeah. Okay, I've thrown all of my heaviest questions at you already. So I front loaded all of that, and now we get to talk about all of the fun stuff. So first I think that something that I thought was interesting going into this book, coming off of Happy Ever After playlist, is that we're kind of dealing with like almost a performer again, you know, somebody who's got a level of fame. Was that something that you consciously thought of, like, oh, I had fun doing this sort of like performer fame exploration with the last book, and I would love to try a different take on it? Or was that just kind of coincidental?
It was coincidental. I love that Vanessa used her platform to, you know, raise awareness for ALS and raise funds for ALS. But what I really liked about who Vanessa is I think instantly when you hear like, oh, this person's famous, you think that you're going to get like this whole YouTuber side and it's going to be glamorous. And that is so not Vanessa in this book. Like Vanessa is just a normal person. She does not have this inflated sense of self. She's just kind of like, you know, this is my life. And, you know, I'm humbled by it. And I just, you know, use this platform to, you know, raise awareness for ALS. And you really don't get like that diva thing from her, I guess you can say. And I hit all these little tidbits in the book, you know, so we understand exactly how famous she is. There's this one scene, I don't think this is spoilery, where Adrian's finding out that she was on a panel with Tom Hanks and they called her the nice one, you know? And it's like, I just like put in these little tidbits where you're like, oh my gosh, like she's really famous. Like she's rubbing shoulders with like these incredibly famous people. And she's just so normal and grounded, has like this totally crappy family life and all this, you know, her life is such a mess and it's all over the place. And, you know, I liked humanizing her that way and not having the fame be a huge focus of who she is, but just being one facet of what, you know, what has become of her, I guess, over the years.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I also enjoy writing fame stories. I think it's really interesting and fun. And I love exactly what you were saying, like those grounding details where it's like, to you as a reader, you're like, wow, this is like a crazy contextualization of how famous this person is. And at the same time, it is establishing this character as somebody who's like, oh, well, then that's that guy, Tom, that I know, you know? I love that. It's so smart. Speaking of smart, I think that you're one of the funniest authors that I know. And I'm not just saying that because this is your launch event and I have to be nice to you. I really do think you're one of the funniest authors that I know. Can you tell us one of your favorite non-spoilery jokes from the book?
Favorite oh, okay. Well, so at the end of Happy Ever After playlist, Kristen's talking to Sloane and she's like, you know, he's a Copeland. You should totally marry him. What if the penis is hereditary? Because we all know Josh Copeland in the friend zone is like, is this crazy huge penis? So that comes up in Life's Too Short. That is an ongoing, the large penis joke is an ongoing joke that I carry through the end of the book. It's very funny, and I think you guys will love it when you stumble across it.
I really restrained myself from making a joke about how there's one thing that's not too short. I'm so sorry. I had to do it. But I mean, I get this question a lot, and I'm really curious to hear your take on it, which is people ask, what do you think is the key to writing a funny book and a book with like dialogue and banter and voice, which is one of your, what I think when I read your books, one of your biggest strengths is just like, even in the narration, there's so much voice. So to you, like when you're writing, what do you think are some of the keys to really building that really funny, just like voice in a book?
You know, you just have to write dialogue the way you speak. Like, and I don't know why people like don't do that. It's like, you just have to write the way you speak. Like if you were standing there talking to your best friend, you would say things like, you know, you'd be like, I mean, you know, like things like that. You just have to write your dialogue the way you speak. And really like the stuff that's not dialogue, you write like you would your internal monologue. And I don't know, that just comes very easily to me. And I don't know why it comes so easily to me, but I will tell you this, you know, I used to be very active on Twitter and like always tweeting, you know, funny stuff and get like a funny idea. And I was talking to Sally Thorne and she was telling me how she got off of Twitter and how now she reserves those funny little quips for her books. And I was like, that's pretty smart, actually.
That is, okay, she knows something that we don't.
And I was like, I should probably do that. And you know what, in my books, actually in this book, I will reuse a tweet. Like there's, you know, this one tweet that I did and it said, if a guy called me at 2 a.m., like, you know, like, why are you sending dick pics? If a guy called me at 2 a.m. and was like, girl, I got a cake and sent me a cake pic, I'd be like, come over, you know? And I actually put that in the book because I wrote it. It's my tweet. It's funny, you know? But like, wouldn't that be so much funnier if it wasn't on Twitter and it was only in the book, you know? So now I actually kind of stop tweeting as much to kind of reserve some of those funny little thoughts that I have for my readers. And they have to like read my books to hear all the funny stuff. And I got that from Sally Thorne. I thought it was like so smart.
That is so smart. That is, I mean, like, I do think that in general, logging off is good for the creative process.
Yeah.
But that is a specific piece of evidence for the case. Yeah, I feel like for me, anytime I'm like having a conversation with one of my friends and I say something that I think is funny, there's never going to be a more organic joke that you can write than one that you actually came up with in the middle of a conversation. And I'll write it down. Yeah. You know, is that narcissistic that we're like, oh, I'm so funny, let me write that?
No, because we are funny. Okay.
You know what? It's okay to be funny.
It's okay to be funny and to know you're funny.
Yeah.
My husband, like in the friend zone, that entire conversation where Kristen and Josh are talking about Stuntman Mike being a hunting dog, that is word for word the conversation I've had with my husband, word for word. That's why it feels organic and like an actual banter back and forth, because it is. Like we still joke about that Stuntman Mike hunts women. But yeah, like, you know, I think it has helped me to continue on, like, you know, my comedy role, I guess, in my books, just by writing down these little thoughts that I have, these little conversations that I have. Sometimes, like, I've got this Google Doc, and it's just a long running list of like funny conversations that I can plug into any book that my characters can have.
Yeah. No, I think that the Google Doc collection of just like random thoughts and jokes should be in every writer's toolkit, because I cannot tell you how many times that has saved my ass.
It's so like, because there's times where, you know, you just need, I hate to call it filler, okay? But like, you know, where you need these characters to be talking about something for a long period of time, and to have these like prepared little segments that you can just drop it in there in between important discussions that are book relevant is very helpful. It's very helpful.
Yes. No, and you know what? Work smarter, not harder. That is what I say. So, I mean, I feel like we're kind of there already, but what was some of the most fun you had writing this book? Because while it is a book that deals with a lot of heavy stuff, as you said earlier, I feel like with this book and with all of your books, what makes them so much fun to read is I can tell you're having fun while you're writing it. So are there any moments that kind of stand out in your mind as like a day that you were just having a blast sitting down to write?
You know, there's a scene in the book where Vanessa and Adrian are opening up fan mail, and that is a little bit like inspired from my real life, because people like to send me stuff sometimes, and thankfully no one has ever sent me anything weird, but the thought is always in the back of my mind, like, what if they do though? Because people know where, I mean, my address, my shop, my bakery is easily, Googled. And people sometimes will come in and drop stuff off, and they're always like these super thoughtful, like really nice gifts. Like somebody gave me, I'm not wearing them right now, but somebody gave me some earrings that have the cover of my book on them. People bring me things or send me stuff that they think I'll like, but it's always in the back of my mind, like, what if I get a weirdo? What if some freaking weirdo just like sends me an ear or something? And so, Vanessa, who's on a totally different, I feel like my following is very like, sort of fits into a box, it's mostly ladies, and, they're probably a lot like me, and we could all be best friends if we knew each other. But Vanessa's this YouTuber with millions of followers from all over the world, men and women. There's going to be weirdos out there, and they are going to send her weird stuff. So what does that look like, So there's this really fun scene where they're opening up fan mail, and all of the things that run through my mind, like what could be in this package that somebody has left at Naughty Cakes, like actually comes to fruition, and it's like strange, creepy stuff. And I had a lot of fun writing that. And also we get to really see her enjoying her fans. So like the times, every time when somebody sends me something nice and funny, like somebody sent me this like Morse code bracelet, where it says, I can't remember what it said, but it was like something funny, like, fuck everything, eat tacos or something like that. It was funny. They send me stuff that I really do enjoy. So we see that side too, where Vanessa's getting all these things from her fans, and she's putting it all on, and her and Adrian are playing with it, and they're just really enjoying her fan base. So that was definitely inspired from real life. I had a ton of fun writing that scene, a ton of fun. Sometimes a scene just like rolls out of you, and you don't even have to touch it again. And I love when that happens, like when I just sit down and I just crank it out, and it's just perfect, like right as as you've written it. And that was one of those scenes.
I love that. So I would love to just kind of get into Adrian and Vanessa and their dynamic. I mean, I think that they're such good complements for each other, and I'm really curious if you kind of developed one and then let that inform the development of the other, or if they kind of both were developed independently of each other, and then you were like, hey, they're perfect for each other.
Normally the way that I write is I create the heroine in my mind, and then I write whatever man is what works for her. That's how I write. But as I just told you guys earlier, Adrian actually existed for me in a previous book. So I knew very well who he was. So I actually kind of created Vanessa for him. Which is different than what I normally do. Adrian is he's a workaholic. The guy like never has fun. He's super into his routine. That's like his safe space. And he needed somebody that was going to crack him out of that shell. And so he gets Vanessa. Vanessa's just this like, bright, effervescent woman who is a free spirit. She's so fun. She's this polar opposite. And both of them are really what the other one needed. She needed somebody to be stable because she had such an unstable childhood. She has such an unstable adulthood, really. And she needed somebody stable and grounding. She says, and I know that my publisher shared this on Twitter, so don't feel like this is a spoiler, but she says to him at one point, I feel like I'm in a tornado, and the only time that I feel still is when I'm with you. And that's what he is for her. And she's the opposite. He's so grounded and so just like rooted, and she makes him branch out and look at the world in a different way. And that's what he needed. I love these two together. They are just complete opposites attract, and it just works like so well for me.
I feel like you also, as I was listening, I was like, oh my God, you're describing my relationship. And now I know why I like this book so much. But I'm Vanessa. I'm a hot mess. So, yeah, my partner's like a quadruple Capricorn. So here we are. But anyway, yeah, no, I love the two of them together. And I really love, I wouldn't even call it a slow burn as much as this like really beautiful, organic, what you were describing, like found family development, where it's like they really learn each other really well before they even really dive super deep into this like steamier side of their relationship. Was that kind of a conscious dynamic you want to explore? Because I was just thinking back to, because like before we got on, I was just skimming back over the friend zone, and I was just thinking of what a different beginning to a relationship they have. Is that something you were like, oh, let me try something different here, of sort of like this very kind of slower building dynamic between these two?
You know, I don't go into it with any sort of roadmap, and I just write it as it feels correct to me. And I know that it was a lot longer for Vanessa and Adrian to connect than it was for Kristen and Josh, because my readers have actually said to me, in the friend zone, it was on a page 116, and you made me wait till page 274 in Life's Too Short. So it is definitely a slower burn, but I just do what's right for the characters, you know. Incidentally, in my fourth book, Part of Your World, that book starts off with a one-night stand. So it's going to change for every book. It's going to be what's right for that character, for both characters. And that's just, it took what it took, you know. And then, you know, this book is probably the least steamy book of all three. I wouldn't say that it's like a closed door book, but it's definitely, the steam level is lower. And again, I wrote it the way that it felt right for those characters. If it doesn't feel right to me to, you know, graphically describe a scene, because I feel like it takes away from maybe the intimacy of that scene or the poignancy of that scene, then that's the way I'm going to write it. You know, I never have any rules about that. But yeah, it's definitely a slow burn. I definitely make the reader earn it, but it's such a delicious slow burn. Like I just love the, you know, the angst and like the growing, building friendship between them. And it's like, you know, the will they, won't they, and everybody knows but them. That's another strong theme in this book. Everybody knows but them. You know, they both think that the other one is not really interested, and they both totally are. And I just love that about this book. Yeah,
no, I love it too. I am such a fan of a slow burn in romance. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I am also a fan of a page one night stand, but I don't know, like, the longing, it's about the yearning, you know. It's about the yearning. So I would love to hear about Part of Your World and about what you have planned next. So would you please tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I just signed another 3-book deal. And this book, it is still in the Friend Zone universe. We're going to hear mentions of characters from previous books. We do not get any cameos of any characters from previous books. We do get a pretty significant Where Are They Now for Lola Simone from the Happy Ever After playlist. So that's really fun. Every book feels so different to me, which is good because it should. You know, if I'm writing the same characters again and again, it's like, that's not fun. And this book for me, Part of Your World, feels maybe the most different of any of the books that I've written. I absolutely love the universe that I create in Part of Your World. It's a social gap, age gap romance. It's a small town boy, 28 years old, Daniel Grant, and a wealthy 37-year-old doctor from a big city. And they have this fabulous meet cute that I love so much. And it is just a very fun book. There's a dog in the book, of course, and the dog is a hunting dog this time. And it's a rescue hunting dog, and it's like loosely based on my own husband's hunting dog, Tess, which if you guys follow Tess on the internet anywhere, you know that she's like always causing me problems. The other day, I didn't really post about this, but the other day, my God. So my husband took her for this long walk because it's raining, and he brings her home and then immediately puts her in the doggy room because she's wet, and then goes out to eat with a friend. And I come home 20 minutes later and this room is covered in blood, like massacre. Like, what happened in here? Okay. Blood on the walls, blood on the bags of dog food. And I have like a white sheet down on the dog bed, and there's blood all over the dog bed. And I'm like, what is this? Oh my gosh. And I'm trying to carry her through the house to get her up to the sharks. I can't even see where it's coming from. This dog had the tiniest freaking cut on her ear. I'm talking about, it was so small. When I cleaned her up and I took a picture of it, you need like a magnifying glass to see this cut on this dog's ear. And this stuff is always happening to me when he is not home. It's like, why is she always, like, she brought a live squirrel in the house once. Okay. There's been many times where she's come up to the front door with a dead squirrel in her mouth, like, hey, can I, you know, like, she's just crazy. And so I wrote a dog very similar to that in my fourth book. But yeah, I couldn't even share the pictures of like this bloody massacre in this.
Oh my
So
God.
it looked like she killed something in there, and it was just this little cut on her ear. And she was running around wet. So he didn't notice because she's dark brown. He didn't notice she had blood all over her. And the ear was dripping on her collar and then like funneling down her chest. So I'm washing her and there's just blood running off her.
Oh my God.
It was horrifying. And I'm like, oh God. Anyway, so we get a really
oh my God.
I see that dog, I've got 4 dogs. I've got 3 Yorkies about the size of Stuntman Mike. And that dog needs a staff. That hunting dog needs a staff. I don't even think my husband knows what it really is to like own a hunting dog because he's got this entire family dealing with that dog for him. But anyway, yeah, Tess is her own Instagram. If you guys want to follow her, it's Tessie Girl. So,
wow.
Michael's getting very nervous because he hears thunder outside. We're getting like a big thunderstorm here in Minnesota, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go hide under the bed, Mom."
Wow. Well, I personally love an age gap romance where it's an older woman. I want so many more of them to exist in the world, so that makes me very happy to hear. So I can't wait. In addition to that, I would love to hear about what your books that you've read lately are that you loved. And your to be read list right now.
I just finished reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor.
Love that book.
I loved it. Loved it. And then I'm actually reading, I'm going to probably give the title wrong, but it's called like Wicked Women of the West or something. And it's about prostitutes from like the 1800s, like, infamous soiled doves. And I'm really enjoying that because those ladies were badass.
Nice.
Okay. I mean, it was not easy to be a woman in those booming mining towns, I mean, literally there'd be like 98% men and then just like this small, percentage of women that were living there during those times. And it's a funny story. I actually heard this story on a visit to Arizona once, but women in a lot of those towns back in the day were so few and far in between, they could literally get away with murder because if they murdered someone, I mean, we don't want to get rid of like 1 of 10 women in town, by jailing her or like punishing her. So they would literally get away with murder. It was like, well, I mean,
what are you going to do? She's a lady.
That really fascinated me. Like I wanted to read about that dynamic, where these women were so valued and just so badass, to be like in this incredibly dangerous, very brutal and difficult industry back during the 1800s. So that's a very fascinating book and I'm very much enjoying it. I'll share it in my Instagram stories if you guys want to read that. But I really, really liked The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That was very good too.
So what you're telling me is that your next book is going to be a Western romance about a lady murderer. I can't wait. Okay, so I have a lightning round prepared.
Okay.
And I feel like it's not going to end up being a lightning round because we're going to descend into some discussions about this or that. So let's just go where the spirit moves us, okay? So first of all, cake or cupcakes?
Cupcakes.
Solid choice. Okay, so firefighters or musicians?
Oh, man. You know what? Actually, like I know I write about these two, but I inherently distrust both.
Please tell us why. Tell us why.
That's so hard. I'd say like maybe a musician.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I might trust a firefighter slightly more. Musicians, I'm like, is that song about me? Or is it about somebody else and you're just saying it's about me? I don't know.
That's true. Okay, now I distrust. Now I'm confused.
I'm sorry. No offense to any musicians out there, but we don't trust you. Okay. So this is romance trope, this or that. Fake relationship or just one bed?
Just one bed.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Okay, so this could be writing or reading. Historical romance or contemporary romance?
Contemporary.
I feel you. Although I have been enjoying some historicals lately, I will say.
Which ones?
Okay, so I've been reading Olivia Waite's historical romances. She has one called oh my god, A Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics. That's really good. So that's kind of I'm newer to historical romance than I am to contemporary, so I'm still expanding my horizons. Okay, so this is something that I just want to know because I'm curious when I read your books. Do you prefer writing the hero chapters or writing the heroine chapters?
It depends. Like right now, I'm actually working on my 5th book. And I love the hero in that book. He's very, very complex. And I get him, I really just get him. So I'm really enjoying writing him. In Life's Too Short, I think I enjoyed writing Vanessa a little bit more because she just had more going on, like in her personal life, she had more emotions that she was dealing with than Adrian did. So it just depends. It depends.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're at 8:45. I'm keeping the eye on the clock. And I believe this is the point where we are supposed to start taking some audience questions. So I think our host is gonna, yep.
Hi. Perfectly done, Casey.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm back. I am also obviously in Minnesota, like Abby. So there is a thunderstorm like right on top of us right now.
Mhm.
So like, if I blip out, I apologize. But so far, so good. It's real loud. We do have some questions already. And if you have questions, now is the time to ask them so that I see them. So the first one is from Janushka, and it's for Abby. If you had to pick, who's your all-time favorite book boyfriend out of your books?
Oh, you guys, you're not going to like this question because it's Daniel Grant in Part of Your World. So you have to wait a year to meet him. I absolutely love Daniel. He's like too pure for this world. And I was kind of keeping an eye on the comments over there, and I get this question a lot. There is a very strong Disney theme. There's a strong royalty theme and a lot of Disney like movie story nods in that book. So yes, Part of Your World is definitely a strategic title.
Awesome. All right. Actually, since Casey's here and I have read Red, White, Royal Blue and One Last Stop, being a bookseller has its perks. Casey, who's your favorite romantic interest?
This is going to be very controversial, but I'm going to say Jane from One Last Stop. I love her. She's this like she's like, first of all, she's from the 1970s and she's like displaced in time, which is already cool. But she's also this like sort of like a punk rock riot girl with a heart of gold. And I love her so much. Like she's the dream girl. So yeah.
I don't see how that's controversial. Jane is hot.
Jane is hot. I'm sorry. I tried to write a universally hot girl. I was like, I know that straight women are also going to read this book, and I don't want anybody to be able to deny that Jane is hot, and you would also break the laws of time and space for her.
There you go. All right. So here's a question from Laura. Do you have a favorite resource as an author for creating deep characters? So Abby, I don't know, like a place you go for research or a...
I think a lot. And I've talked about this before, but such a huge part of my process is literally just to think. So, I mean, it's kind of strange to say that my resource is my brain, but okay, like if I know that I'm writing a story about, Part of Your World. Okay, I know if I'm going to write a story about a 28-year-old man, I'm going to think about it a lot. Like, who is he? What are his motivations? What is his life like? Who are his friends? And I just think about it. And I think about it for months until I feel like I know him so well that I can finally sit down and just start writing his story. So, I mean, I know it's not really helpful, but I draw, like when you're thinking during this period where you're not writing anything and you're just thinking, I'm absorbing other books. I'm absorbing shows and movies and things like that. Even the people around me. Like there's people that I've written into my novels that are very loosely based on people in my real life. There's people in Life's Too Short that are loosely based on people in my real life. Even events that have happened in my life have been written into my books. And I won't always talk about them because of privacy purposes, you know, for those people. And I don't even know those people would fully recognize themselves if they saw them in my book. But, you know, the world around you is your resource. You know, there's nothing better than real life, right? And that's how I create my characters, my storylines in my books.
Great. And this is sort of related, and you sort of spoke to it already, so I'm going to make it more specific. So Riley asks, where were you when you got the ideas for your books? Maybe can you tell us one moment for one book that like you were given the idea from some moment in time?
Okay. I had this idea. This is for Part of Your World. I had this idea where there's this woman and she's driving through a town. Okay. She does not live anywhere near this town and she ends up stuck there for some reason. Okay. Her car breaks down or something happens. And she ends up in this town for just like a blip of a moment. But that blip of a moment is such a big catalyst in her life that it ends up rearranging her whole life. And that's really the premise of Part of Your World. You know, this woman who does not belong in this place, who lives nowhere near this place, ends up for a brief, tiny moment in time, meeting somebody. And that person makes such an impact on her that it really like puts her whole life upside down. This is not, just so you guys know, this is not like a surprise pregnancy thing. Okay. Because I mean, obviously that definitely ropes you in and now like you have to deal with this person. This is just a deep connection that she ends up having with somebody in an unexpected moment in an unexpected place. And I just had like this vision in my head of, you know, meeting this guy who's totally so different than everything else in her life, than everybody else in her life. You know, he's the kind of person that everyone around her would be like, you're dating him, you know? And I wanted to write that story and show how that works, you know, even though they're so different and he lives in such a different world, showing how that works, even though no one else gets it. So that's how I had the idea for that. Just this woman driving through a town, having this thing happen, and then the book goes from there. So that's how the book starts.
Yeah. Here's one from Fabiana. Do you think it is important to write from experience? Let's hear from both of you.
I mean, you can't always write from experience, obviously, because your characters are going to experience things that you never have, but it certainly helps. I think it does help if you can write from experience. It'll feel very authentic because it's real.
Yeah, I think, starting from a baseline of at least something that you relate to or have some experience with. I mean, all writing is research, so inevitably, you know, you will never be able to do a one-to-one, you know, unless you're writing an autobiography. You know, you're not going to ever do like a one-to-one retelling of your personal experiences. But I do think it's good to have a jumping off point, at least for something like contemporary romance that is very immediate, you know, in its feeling, to have a jumping off point that does feel relatable to you.
Yes. Actually, someone in the comments just made the comment that they appreciate that both of you seem to actually have done a lot of research alongside in your writing. And as Crystal says, as a scientist, I really dislike when you can tell an author didn't do any research.
Well, Crystal, if you're a scientist, I have some bad news for you about the science of One Last Stop, because it is flimsy. But it is very much you know, about the power of love to transcend the laws of science. And in that way, no one can correct my science.
People who argue about time travel science, no.
Well, there's also like some electrical science that's very questionable, but it's fine.
Sometimes you just have to leave it vague, you know, like don't
exactly.
Go into it so people can call BS, you know, just like leave it vague.
I mean, like nobody asks when they watch 13 going on 30, like, how did that magic fairy dust work to make her 30 years old? It just did, you know?
Here's one from Tiffany for both of you. Both of you write characters who make bold, sometimes sacrificial changes in their lives to be with the person they love. Could you or would you make those kinds of changes for love too. Ooh. Deep.
Ooh.
I am so not a romantic, and I know that seems really counterintuitive, but I'm actually not. I'm very much a Kristen when it comes to romance. Like, you know, my husband buys me flowers and I'm like, oh, come on, they're going to die. You know, like why? I'm deeply practical. I'm not very sentimental, you know, like I don't know. I'm very, very much like Kristen. So I don't know that I would make like some crazy rash sacrifice. You know, I'd have to like really think about it. It'd have to be grounded in practicality, I think. Although I would do some crazy shit for my husband. Like definitely, like if my husband, like, I mean, but that's just different. Like that's like the love of my life. I guess we're talking about the love of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would make some crazy sacrifice for my husband for sure. Yeah.
I am very much the opposite of Abby in that I'm a little bit impulsive. And I have said many times in my life that I will try anything once and I will do anything for the story. And so I have grown out of that a bit now that I'm older. But I definitely think that to like a reasonable extent, if it was like the love of my life, then like I would do some shit. But it also cannot be something that like compromises my like values or like, you know, anything like what I want. Like I would never like give up my career for somebody, you know. But if it was like you know, take this crazy risk and like run away with me for a weekend and like we'll find out if this works, then like I would probably do that.
Yeah, I probably do that too.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like very low stakes compared to everything I've ever written.
I think it's like, it so depends too. I mean, it depends. You know, what exactly are you asking for here? You know, like,
yeah,
it's very like circumstantial.
I mean, I've definitely had like love stories in my life that felt very high stakes at the time, even if they weren't necessarily high stakes. Actually, it felt like I was like jumping off of cliffs, you know.
We have a question from Talia from a couple, I'm scrolling back here, who I think, if I remember correctly from earlier in the chat, is watching from Germany. So hi, Talia. Thanks for being up in the middle of the night watching. Tips for writing motivation. Give us your secrets.
Oh, man. Abby, do you want to go first?
Tips for writing motivation. You know, I find that like taking breaks really helps if you're feeling like, you know, writer's block, and then listening to music, absorbing other types of media, you know, and just thinking about it. You know, I like so many times I hear you just got to sit down and put words on the page. And I find that that might work for some people, but I find when I sit down and I force it just to put words on the page, and I got to go back, I got to change it because you know, I wasn't ready to write it. You know, it's like I didn't know the character well enough to sit down and put those words on the page. So that doesn't work for me. I'd say if you're not feeling it, you know, wait and think about it. You know, maybe write yourself some notes, try and detach your brain from it. And it's so helpful. I cannot stress how helpful this is to step away from a project and then come back to it. When you have a manuscript and you just let it sit for like a few months, you know, 6 weeks or something, and then come back to it, you get such a fresh perspective because you've kind of forgotten everything. And it's like you get this tunnel vision just staring at the same thing, you know, every day and trying to work through it. When you just give yourself that chance to just move away from it, stop thinking about it, stop reading it over, and then come back at it with fresh eyes, it's very, very helpful.
Abby literally just said everything I was going to suggest. Those are all things I do too. And I'm literally currently in the process of revising and rewriting a bunch of stuff that I wrote when I was forcing myself to get through it. And it sucks. Like it's not good writing. And I am like rewriting a lot of that stuff. And it's so much better now that I know these characters as well as I do.
Yep.
We have a question from Caitlin. Caitlin, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to do the second part of your question first because I love this type of question. Was your initial concept for these books, so pick whichever of your books you want to pick, different than the book as published? So like what happened along the way? Do you have any any stories about changing or keeping things the same?
I mean, I can go first. Red, White, and Royal Blue is basically the same from jump. Like, it was the same story. I was very, like, immediate, like, outline that plot day one. Nothing has ever come to me, like, and developed as naturally as that book did when I started outlining it. One Last Stop, originally Jane was going to be a ghost. And then I was like, that's a bummer. I don't want her to be dead. So how else could we like have her be from a different time? And that's how the time travel thing came in.
I'm glad she's not dead.
Yeah, me too.
Like, that's so final. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, how do you work through that?
No, I was like, well, that was the thing. Is like, I don't know how to end this book. Like, we can't like resurrect her. I don't know. I thought about doing like a Susie Q thing where she just like shows up at the end and it's not really explained. And then I'm like, we're going to go with time travel.
Love it. And so Caitlin's first question for both of you, which characters that you wrote do you relate to the most?
I think Kristen's internal monologue is definitely my own, but in terms of like the way that I outwardly act, I'd say I'm probably more like Sloane. I don't like a lot of attention on me. I'm like not a confrontational type of person. I don't want to say something and have all the eyes on me in the room. So I'm very much like Sloane in that way. Jason was always flustering her and saying stuff to work her up. And that's totally like me. Whereas Kristen just says whatever she thinks. Like, Kristen's like the brave version to me that I wish I could be. She'll just say whatever comes to her mind and she doesn't care what people think about it. And, but her internal monologue is definitely mine. I'm thinking all that stuff. I'm just not saying it out loud.
I think mine would have to be Alex from Red, White, and Royal Blue. We are the same in a lot of ways. We're both just, I don't know, like disaster. So we're both like, we both have a lot of like intensity and like impulsivity, but also like very, very much just want to look out for the people in our lives.
All right. I think we've gone through, I'm sorry if I missed a question. I see one more that I know we haven't done. So if I see one more in the next couple of minutes, we'll do that too. But from Riley, how did both of you get started writing?
Oh boy.
Good question.
Make that one quick.
Casey, you could go first.
I mean, how did I get started writing? I got started writing by reading. And I read a lot and wrote a lot as a kid. I literally remember being like in first grade, like trying to write picture books, and then I actually decided at some point that it was not that practical and went to college and studied journalism and did that for a while. And then I was like, this isn't really like hitting the spot, and I just kind of found my way back to fiction, which was kind of what I always really wanted to do anyway. And the rest is history.
Was Red, White, and Royal Blue like your first attempt at writing a book, or did you have other
No,
books?
It was not. It was my first completed attempt, but it was, there were very many abandoned young adult fantasies in my life.
My gosh, I bet people would love to get their hands on those.
They're not good.
I know. Mine are not good either. Like, people think they want it, but they don't want it.
They don't.
It would just take like all the thunder out of it. For me, I had a very similar childhood with the reading and the writing. I took creative writing all throughout high school. I was in honors English, and I was an avid reader. The reason why I don't really read historical romances now is because I read so many, like in high school. Like I read so many, and I'm just kind of over it now because I feel like I've done it. But I never had a background in writing. I never, went to school for it or anything like that. I had an idea for a YA novel, and I feel like I've talked about this before a lot of times, but I had a YA novel in my head, a little YA romance, and I told it to my kids one time on a camping trip. We were reined in, we were in the tent, and I was telling them this story that I had thought up, and my daughter was like, "You should write it down, Mom. that'd be so cool if you wrote it down. So I started writing it down, and she would come home from school and I would read her these chapters, and it was really horrible. It was so bad, you guys. It was like the worst. I can't even look at it now. It gives me like, oh, like I cringe. It was 300,000 words long, which, to give you an idea of how long that is, that's all 3 of my books in one book. And it was just word vomit and just terrible. I submitted it to an agent, and she gently told me that I might benefit from getting some critique partners. So I joined the site Critique Circle and started running that book through there. And people were like, dude, this is horrible. But your dialogue is so great. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw this whole thing out, and I'm going to just change everything up. I went from writing in third person to first person narrative. I started writing in dual POVs. And I decided to lean very heavily on what I was good at, which was dialogue. So I started writing a contemporary romance, so I didn't have to world build. And that book was the Happy Ever After playlist. And that's why we have so much banter back and forth between Jason and Sloan in the beginning, because I was depending very heavily on this dialogue that everyone told me I was so great at. And they loved that book on Critique Circle. It got huge accolades. Everybody was reading it. It really encouraged me to query it. So I queried it, and I ended up getting an agent. And that's how that all started.
And the rest is history. Okay, well, yeah, I think that was all the questions. And again, if I missed yours, I'm very sorry. I don't know. Tag Abby on Instagram and see.
One day when I come to Minnesota and we do this in person, you can ask it then.
Exactly. Casey's definitely coming to Minnesota. We're going to make it happen. And yeah, I want to share a comment from Stephanie that says, all I'm saying is thank you both for writing stories that distract us from our lives. Thank you for making us smile and laugh and cry and meet new friends, fictional and real, which I think is a very lovely thing to say, Stephanie. So thank you for watching. Again, way back in the chat, if you scroll all the way back to the top, I did drop a link to signed copies of Life's Too Short that are available at Majors and Quinn. If you're interested in One Last Stop, you should give Majors and Quinn a call. We can place a pre-order for you, or at your favorite indie bookstore, wherever that may be. That comes out in May, right?
June 1st.
Okay, sorry.
You're very close. One day away from May.
It is, yeah. So we're getting really close. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here, for supporting Independent Bookstore, for supporting Abby, one of our most favorite local authors. And we'll see you next time, hopefully in person. Let's do it all.